I skipped my own promotion ceremony to surprise her with dinner. Her phone buzzed all night. When I finally checked it, I saw her text. "He's clueless. I'm only here till the money clears." When I confronted her, she just laughed. "You're not the prize you think you are." I let her walk away that night. But she didn't know I had already moved every dollar.
All right.
So like I said, she walked out that night without even trying to explain.
No tears, no begging.
Just grabbed her purse and left. I stood there in our living room, still in my dress shirt, food cold on the table, candles flickering down. It felt like I was watching someone else's life. I had skipped one of the biggest moments in my career to do something nice for her, and she was out there with some guy named Nate, trashing me behind my back. But I didn't fall apart.
Not then.
I poured myself a glass of wine, turned off the candles, and sat on the couch. I just stared at the wall. My head was buzzing. I kept thinking back to little things that never made sense, but I brushed off. Like how she suddenly started locking her phone 2 months ago, after 4 years of never caring about that. How she claimed she was too busy with work to come with me to my company picnic, but posted an IG story from a rooftop downtown later that same day.
She said it was an old post when I asked.
I believed her. How she started talking more about being independent and needing space, but was still fine using my card whenever she wanted something. She wasn't dumb.
She had planned this.
And I think that's what hit me the hardest. She played the long game, moved in with me, made me feel like I was building something with her, all while lining up her exit behind my back. The part one didn't mention earlier about the money. I need to explain that better. We had a joint savings account. It started off with just a couple grand, but I kept adding to it. After I got the promotion notice from HR 3 weeks ago, I moved a $20,000 bonus check into that account, thinking it was the responsible thing for our future. I figured she'd be excited. 2 days later, I noticed a pending wire transfer for $60,000 scheduled from that account. When I confronted her about it, she said it was for a business opportunity, some big project she wanted to invest in. Said she didn't want to bother me with the details until it was final. Something about her tone felt off. But I let it go. Later that night, I pulled up the account details. The transfer wasn't going to a business account. It was going to a personal checking account in another state, Nevada. I had never even heard her mention Nevada. I canceled the transfer right away. The next day, I went to the bank, removed her access, moved the entire balance into a new account in my name only, and locked it down with 2-factor authentication. I also froze our joint credit card. That was a week before the dinner. I hadn't planned to tell her. I thought maybe she got spooked or made a mistake, and part of me didn't want to believe what it looked like. But when I saw those texts, it all made sense. She wasn't just trying to take the money. She was waiting for it to clear so she could vanish. What she didn't expect was for me to act first. The next morning, I called my lawyer, told him everything. He advised me to document it all. So, I printed out the texts, the bank activity, even the photos I found in her message thread. He told me since we weren't married, and her name wasn't on the condo deed or the private accounts, she didn't have a legal leg to stand on, which was a relief. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted her to know she didn't win. I waited a few days.
She didn't come back.
Didn't call or text. I figured she was with Nate, probably thinking she'd outsmarted me. Then on Wednesday, I got an email from her.
Short.
Just one line. I tried to check the account, and it says I don't have access. What's going on? I didn't respond. Instead, I changed the locks that same day, called the property manager, and had her removed from the lease access. I also forwarded her email to my lawyer and let him deal with anything else. Then something strange happened. On Friday night, I saw a black car parked across the street. It just sat there, engine running. No one got out. 10 minutes later, my doorbell rang. It was Alicia. She looked tired. Hair messy, makeup faded like she'd been crying. She had a small overnight bag in her hand. "Eric," she said quietly. "Can we talk?" I stood in the doorway. Didn't move. Didn't say anything. "I don't know what happened, okay? Things got mixed up. I was scared, and I cut her off. You said I'm not the prize I think I am," I said. "So, what are you doing here?" She looked down. No more smirk. No attitude. Just silence. Finally, she said, "I didn't mean it like that." I laughed once. Cold. "Go stay with Nate," I said, and closed the door in her face. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because 2 days later, her little plan started falling apart. And I had only just started mine. After I shut the door in her face, I watched from the peephole. She stood there for a long time, maybe 5 minutes, just holding that little bag like she was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. Eventually, she walked off and got back in the car across the street. I figured Nate had come with her, maybe thinking I'd flip out or cause a scene. But I never saw his face. They drove off, and I didn't hear from her for a few days after that. That should have been the end. It should have stopped there. But Alicia wasn't used to being cut off. She thought she could come and go as she pleased, and that I'd always be there to clean up after her. She underestimated how much I'd changed in just a week. So, here's what really kicked it off. The same lawyer who helped me close out the joint account sent me a heads up. Apparently, Alicia had tried to file a claim through her friend's small business account, saying I had misused shared funds. She tried to frame it like I'd drained our joint savings without her consent and left her financially stranded. She thought she could pull some sympathy card and maybe scare me into giving her a payout. But what she didn't know was that I had kept every receipt, every transfer detail, every suspicious message. My lawyer had already filed a protection claim for preemptive defense, basically flipping the whole narrative. We were ready. But the real twist? Nate wasn't some random guy. He was married, with kids. I didn't find that out by digging deep. It came to me, literally. Nate's wife messaged me. She found my email from one of the finance notifications Alicia had forwarded to Nate without logging out of her shared laptop. She said she'd been suspicious for a while, and one day she finally went through his phone while he was in the shower. She found texts, pictures, voice notes, the same ones I saw. Turns out, Alicia had been seeing Nate for over a year. He traveled for work, which made it easy. They'd meet in hotels when he came through Chicago or when she visited clients in other cities. He even sent her money, gift cards, cash apps under fake names, things like that. And Alicia wasn't the only one he was seeing. His wife was gathering proof to file for divorce and wanted to know if I'd be willing to share what I had. I didn't hesitate. I forwarded everything. Later that week, I got another message from one of Alicia's old friends, Melanie. She said she felt guilty and wanted to warn me. Apparently, Alicia had been bragging to their friend group that she was finally leveling up and that she had one foot out the door ever since I got the promotion notice. She told them she'd found someone with real money and that she was just sticking around until the bonus cleared. They laughed with her. None of them warned me. But once they saw the whole thing blow up, Melanie reached out. Said Alicia was spiraling, trying to crash at different people's houses, blaming me for everything. Saying I trapped her. It was insane. And still I wasn't done. I knew her reputation was everything. She sold herself as this successful, self-made designer. She relied on her name, referrals, her image on social media. So I sent a simple message to a few of the businesses that had used her designs. Nothing nasty, just factual. I shared some of the financial warnings, the false claims she made, and proof she'd tried to reroute shared funds under the table. I made sure to keep it clean, professional, legal. But I knew the damage was done. By the following week, Alicia's interior design website was offline. Her IG was wiped. She stopped posting altogether. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up at my job.
Security called me.
Said there was a woman at the front desk asking for me. I told them to keep her there and called the cops. When I came down, she was sitting on the bench by the fountain outside our building, sunglasses on, arms crossed, shaking her leg. She looked worn down. Hair in a messy bun, jeans and hoodie. Not the Alicia I knew. I stayed behind the glass door and waited for the officers to arrive. She never even looked up. They asked her to leave. She argued for a minute, said she just wanted to talk, but eventually they walked her off the property. She hasn't shown up since. But I could feel it. This wasn't over. Because people like Alicia don't give up. They don't reflect. They don't heal. They just look for the next person to blame.
So I stayed ready.
And then came the email that nearly set everything on fire from Nate Williams at *subject. We need to talk. You're making a mistake. You might think you're the good guy in all this, but you're messing with more than you know. Leave her alone. You've made your point. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just dealing with a cheating girlfriend anymore. I was in the middle of something bigger. And I had no plans to back down. I stared at Nate's email for a while before I responded. I wanted to be sure about what I was dealing with. This guy wasn't just some fool Alicia had on the side. He was smug, confident. He thought he had leverage. I replied with 3 words. Try me, Nate. I copied my lawyer on it too. That was on a Monday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, I got a knock on my condo door. Certified letter. Legal notice. A cease and desist. Nate's company, turns out he was some mid-level finance guy for a real estate fund, was claiming I was interfering with his professional and personal affairs. The letter said I had engaged in defamation and unjust harm to business reputation. All because I shared Alicia's messages and financial activity with his wife and her lawyers. They thought they could intimidate me. They didn't know I had already met with Nate's wife, Shannon, in person. She and I talked for almost 2 hours at a diner in Naperville. She brought a folder full of printed screenshots, account records, hotel receipts, and even security camera stills from one of the hotels. Nate used the same burner card for every visit. She had everything. Shannon had been building this case quietly for months. She had her own lawyer, a private investigator. All she needed was someone to confirm what she already knew. I gave her everything. She cried halfway through, apologized for how it all dragged me in, said she and Nate had 2 kids. She was done protecting him. So when that cease and desist came in, I knew exactly what it was, a bluff. Desperation. I forwarded it to Shannon's lawyer. They fired back a formal response the same day, calling it what it was, an attempt to silence a witness and obstruct discovery. By Thursday, Nate's tone changed. He emailed again. This time longer. Look, I think this is getting way out of hand. I didn't mean to come at you like that. I just want this all to calm down. Alicia's been a mess since you cut her off. Maybe we can find a way to settle this quietly. That word again, settle. He was panicking. And that's when I knew something else was coming. Something big. That weekend, I got a call from my bank. There was a flagged login attempt from an IP address out of Las Vegas. 3 tries in a row. Someone was trying to guess their way into my private account. Then another alert, a password reset attempt on my email. Then my Netflix. Then my Amazon. It was Alicia. I knew because one of the reset emails got forwarded to a backup address I forgot she had access to. I checked the IP and traced it right back to a hotel in Vegas. And guess what? Same hotel she had texted Nate about in her old messages. She wasn't trying to talk. She wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to rob me again. I locked it all down. Full 2-factor, on everything. Changed my phone number. New router. I even had the locks on the condo changed again, just in case. But I wasn't done reacting anymore. I was done playing defense. So I decided to go on offense. Alicia had 1 week spot left, her reputation in the Chicago interior design scene. So I made a call to a local podcast, Windy City Spaces, a pretty big one in the local design and real estate space. They'd interviewed her 2 years ago. She bragged about it for weeks. I reached out with proof of her financial scams and her attempt to use stolen joint funds for a fake business expansion. I kept it anonymous. I told them I didn't want money or credit. I just thought they should know who they had platformed. 3 days later, they pulled her episode. A week later, they ran a new one titled, When Design Turns to Deceit, Protecting Yourself from Business Scams in the Industry. They never named her directly, but everyone knew. People unfollowed her. Her former clients started posting about unpaid invoices, incomplete jobs, ghosting. One client even posted pictures of a $10,000 kitchen redesign Alicia never finished, just walked out halfway through and disappeared. The same week, I found out from Shannon that Nate had been suspended pending review from his company. Then Alicia did something that caught me off guard. She messaged my mom through Facebook. A long fake apology, playing the victim, saying I'd cut her off and ruined her life, and that she was dealing with mental health stuff. Trying to pull sympathy from someone who'd always been kind to her. But my mom?
She's not stupid.
She called me right away, read the message out loud. Then she blocked Alicia on the spot. Said she always had a weird feeling about her. I should have listened. By now, you'd think Alicia would crawl away, start over, leave it all behind.
But no.
Because a few days ago, she finally crossed the line. She broke into my storage unit. Didn't steal anything valuable, just weird, personal stuff. Old photos. Some of my dad's military stuff I kept in boxes. Childhood keepsakes. And left a note. Just one line. I'm not done. That's when I knew this wasn't about money anymore. This was war. After she left that note in my storage unit, I'm not done. Something inside me switched. I wasn't scared. I was disgusted. Alicia had crossed every line, and now she was messing with things that had nothing to do with her. That storage unit had photos of my dad, who passed when I was 20.
She knew what it meant to me.
That was personal. That was war. I didn't waste time. I pulled every piece of evidence I had and gave it to the cops. Her breaking into the unit? That was enough to file a formal restraining order. It was a breach of private property. Plus, she left a note in her handwriting. She might as well have signed it. I also gave them access to the emails, the bank logs, the failed login attempts, and the messages from Nate's burner numbers. Cops told me it was enough to open a case for cyber harassment and attempted identity fraud. But I wasn't done. That same week, Shannon, the wife of her boyfriend Nate, filed for divorce. She dropped the hammer on him. Her lawyer subpoenaed Nate's financials, and they found out he'd been funneling money to Alicia through fake contracts under a shell LLC. She didn't have a real interior design expansion plan. She was listed as a consultant on paper, but never delivered any services. They charged him with wire fraud. Yep. The man Alicia was counting on to upgrade her life got fired, divorced, and investigated, all in the same month. I heard from Shannon that he had to sell his car and move back in with his parents while fighting legal bills. But Alicia? Her crash was even worse. Turns out, once Shannon's lawyer opened the books and investigators started checking Alicia's financial history, everything unraveled. She had borrowed $30,000 from another guy in Denver, claiming it was for a pop-up shop. Never paid him back. He sued. Then two of her past clients, remember the ones I quietly sent info to? They took her to small claims court over unfinished jobs and misused funds. One of them showed proof she billed for high-end furniture, but never delivered. That's retail fraud. She didn't show up to one of the court dates. Warrant issued. Now here's where karma really came in. Alicia had been living with some new guy, apparently a wannabe crypto investor in Milwaukee, when all this went down. Once the legal notices started piling up, she tried to convince him to put his place in her name for tax reasons. He wised up, kicked her out, blocked her. She ended up back in Chicago, crashing on couches, begging old friends for help. But by then, everyone knew who she really was. I didn't have to keep pushing. Her world collapsed on its own. And me? I stayed quiet. I didn't post about it. Didn't gloat. I kept going to work, stacking money, staying focused. But I wasn't perfect either. I'll admit that. See, when all this started, I could have just walked away. Let it go. Focused on healing. But I didn't. I wanted revenge. I wanted her to feel as broken as she made me feel. And in chasing that, I became colder. Sharper. I don't trust like I used to. I watch people too closely now. My friends tell me I seem different. More guarded. They're not wrong. So yeah, Alicia got what was coming to her. Nate too. But I paid a price for it. I lost a part of myself in that mess. I miss the version of me who was excited to light candles, bring home dinner, and surprise someone I loved. That guy doesn't exist anymore. Still, I don't regret it. Because now, when I walk into my condo, I feel peace. Real peace. Not because she's gone, but because I know I'll never ignore my gut again. I'll never let someone make me feel small in my own home. I'll never hand over my future to someone who only sees me as a meal ticket. Last I heard, Alicia was working part-time at a hotel bar in Schaumburg, using a fake name. Someone sent me a picture of her wiping tables in heels, looking bitter. Let her stay there. Let her remember every day what she lost. As for me, I took my promotion, moved to a better office, bought myself a truck I always wanted, and started volunteering at a local mentorship group for young guys trying to get on their feet. I tell them my story, not all the drama, just the lesson. Don't ignore the signs. And don't ever let someone make you feel like you're not worth loyalty. Revenge didn't fix me, but it sure as hell set me free.